Good morning. I'm Carlos Phillips, President and CEO at the Greenville Chamber. And I want to thank you for joining us this morning for our Community Matters series. We host these webinars each week to connect you with local, state, and national leaders. You can find past recordings as well as the upcoming schedule at www.greenvillechamber.org. Let's do a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, all attendees should be on mute right now. We love dogs and children, but we don't want to hear them in the background. So please mute your microphones. And then finally, please submit your questions through the chat feature, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. Now on with the show. Greenville is known for its great hospitality and as a foodie destination, thanks in part to today's featured speakers. Today, we're excited to hear from two great people in our community. First, Carl Soposinski, founder and president of Table 301. And then we also have Fabian Unterzacher, general manager and partner at Westin Poinsett Hotel in downtown Greenville. And he's joining us today live from the Westin Poinsett Gold Room. So Carl, Fabian, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Good, Fabian, you still with us?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. Good morning, thank you.
Okay, all right, good. All right. We all know how severely the service industry has been impacted and that you both have your eyes on the future as you look to the recovery. First question is for Carl. Carl, with restrictions on restaurants being lifted, your team is getting back to work, and in many ways, you are setting the standard in your processes as you return to work. Can you walk us through what that has looked like for your team?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I guess it was a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago, we were allowed to open for outdoor dining in our state. That was to begin on a Monday, and we took an extra few days. I did not feel we were ready yet when the announcement came on Friday before. So we took the first few days of that week to ensure that we trained our staff in the new steps and protocols that they would need to undertake. We got our restaurant sanitized, cleaned, disinfected, all of our hard surfaces. We had been doing a fair amount of that. We'd been doing it wholeheartedly in the kitchen all along as we were doing curbside delivery and pickup. But we needed to go back over the front of the house areas and all the touch points with the guests. So a couple of the big significant changes have been we signed on with a health screening app called Modjoul, M-O-D-J-O-U-L. And they created a health screening app for employers and employees where in a 2-hour window before an associate comes to work, they'll answer a series of 7 health questions. And then they'll get either an all clear to work, a concern, or a do not go to work based on the answers to how they're feeling that day and what their temperature is. In addition, we are now logging and taking the temperatures of each associate upon their arrival to work as another layer of precaution. We also have all of our servers in the front of the house wearing masks, face coverings. And then we're using single-use menus, and some of the things that really match our brand have been put on the shelf for a little while so that we can eliminate touch points and some of the things that would be viewed as potentially contagious. So it's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, the restaurant industry has always had very rigorous and strict guidelines and protocols for hand washing, sanitizing, disinfecting of hard surfaces. We're just now going beyond just the cooking surfaces, the tables and chairs, and hitting all of the door handles and computer screens and anything that gets touched multiple times. But we're back up and running. We got open that Mother's Day weekend outdoors. And then a week ago yesterday, we started opening indoors at 50% of our dining. And it's definitely a little bit different. For me, the biggest change is people wearing the face covering. That it's It's definitely needed, in my opinion, in the front of the house. It sends us a message of taking this seriously and concern and respect for the customers. But it is different from a hospitality standpoint to have your face covered when you're trying to take great care of people.
Yeah, well, and it's hard to see that smile with your face covered. But good to know that your folks are taking that precaution, and that certainly builds confidence with your customers, which is very important. Fabian, what about for you? How's the recovery look for the Westin Poinsett?
Well, thanks for bringing it up. I mean, you know, we're sitting in a gold ballroom, which has normally been the venue for weddings and meetings and conference and conventions and happy parties or day in and day out, and it has been quiet. It's one of our two ballrooms, and again, when the hotel is closed for 2 months, that's evident, really devastating. Hospitality industry has been hit harder than any other industry, as you know, with airlines and cruise ships and theme parks and hotels and restaurants. So it's devastating for us. You know, travel has stopped, business travel and group business has stopped from one day to another in mid-March, and I think everything has been quiet since then. So it's the first time that, you know, all these hotels, the Hyatt, the Hilton, the Merritt Parkway have closed down for an extended period of time. That's unprecedented. And our occupancy in Greenville downtown is around 8%. So that's hard to make a living. So despite all this, we made the decision to reopen because I think it's time to support you know, the Greenville community, that people come back in and stay and start slowly having confidence again and coming to Greenville and our restaurants and hotels. 70% of travelers still don't have the full confidence in safety and security in the hotel, don't know if it's really safe to stay in a hotel. So we work on that perception. It's really important for us to make sure that people, when they travel, stay with us and feel this is actually better than perhaps staying at home or somewhere else. Of course, we're taking, similar to Carl, a lot of precautions to get the hotel up and running. And it's beyond the restaurant. I mean, a restaurant is one part of our operation. It's clearly the rooms as well. How do you deal with rooms, cleaning and valet services and the gym? And it has all aspects to think of. So it's very complex. But we're gearing up for that big opening day on March 28th, and it will be a slow going in the beginning. What we see is a little bit of occupancy on the weekends, and that's good to see. Fridays, Saturdays are the days where, you know, people want to come and stay with us. Business traveler during the week clearly is not yet there, so Monday through Thursday is, or Sunday through Thursday is very quiet. But at least Friday and Saturday is slowly coming back. And so, you know, we're taking it a day at a time and build on that. And then eventually, you know, we were trying to work, our sales team were working on with our contacts and our groups, you know, how can we open the banquet space again? What is safe? You know, we have 2 ballrooms, you can spread out nicely. So how do we do that so that smaller groups can start meeting again and feel comfortable and safe in a hotel environment? And then, you know, we build on from that over time. So it's a long process, but we're getting there step by step.
Good. Well, Fabian, certainly glad to hear that things are slowly bouncing back. And I think we all look forward to your reopening on May 28th. We often discuss the responsibility of employers to provide a safe experience for customers, but there's still much that the customer can do and should do to keep themselves and those around them safe. Let's talk about some of the responsibilities of the customer. Carl, what are some of those things that the customer can do to help ensure that the environment around them is safe?
That's a great subject, and I think, you know, that's going to be, in my opinion, that's going to be really important for our community. We want to have a reputation. We don't want Greenville to have, from a health standpoint, we obviously don't want Greenville to have large cases of positive testing. but also from an economic recovery standpoint, if we get that reputation as having low cases of positive testing and that the virus is not, overtaking our community, then I think our recovery will be a little bit quicker. And what Fabian was talking about, that drive time weekend getaway traveler will be more likely to choose Greenville. So if we can stay out of the news and stay positive, and that is going to take the public doing the things that they need to do. Look, I don't think any of us, like to wear a mask, but wearing that mask in the grocery store or Home Depot or in public areas, it works. I mean, I think it's been proven. The CDC's recommending it. And so the public needs to do that. They need to socially distance when you come to a restaurant. If your table's not ready, trying to go wait outside the front door or in an area where there's not a lot of crowding. After you've had a couple of drinks at the restaurant, which I saw over the weekend, remembering to still socially distance, and when you run into people you haven't seen in a while, still give them the elbow bump and not the hug that we're so accustomed to doing. So the more that we can do with that, and the safer we can stay as a community and stay out of the news for having a surge in cases, the better off we're going to be for our recovery. And that just takes everybody in our community working together and doing what's socially responsible.
Thanks, Carl. I agree with you. Fabian, what about you? What are some of your thoughts on things that customers can do to make sure that we're safe?
Yeah, I think very similar, to add on to Carl. I mean, for us, the drive-in market is key right now, right? That's what the only market there is important for us to go after. Atlanta, Charlotte, Columbia, Nashville, people with homes, traveling and going to destinations where they want to go to and feel safe. And when people ask me, are you fearful of a second wave? I say, well, we still have to make sure we don't have a first wave, right? As long as our infection rate increases still, we haven't fully mastered the first wave. So adding to Carl, it's really important for all of us, for not only the health, but for business. I mean, these things tie together to make sure that our rate decreases and we are seen as a destination to go to, because we're all, the Charleston and the Hilton Head and everybody competes now for the same customer. It's the drive-in market, and people look at these things, and if they feel Greenville has mastered that and the rates go down, that instills a lot of confidence, and people will select our destination as a place to come to. So it's really, really important to keep that in mind. And vice versa. If that's not the case, that it will be very, very hard for us to get these travelers come to our destination. So, talking a little bit about, Carl and I and others, I think from our side, we're doing a lot to protect our employees and our guests when they come here. It's really important that the customer does their part when they come in and play along with the distancing and understands what we're doing. I think that would be crucial for our success to reopen again in the long term.
Yeah, that's an excellent point from both you, Fabian, and from Carl. I was out this weekend, and I'm probably more conscious now of not only of what employees are doing at the retail stores and the restaurants, but also consumer behavior as well. And I've got to say that there were some times that I was a bit disappointed in the consumer reaction. And that disappointment was, driven by the fact of that, I know that our fastest way to a recovery is through social distancing and face coverings and hand sanitizing and those sorts of things. And the more we can engage in those sorts of behaviors, the faster and more effectively we're going to recover. We just need more consumers to share in that understanding. So thank you all for sharing that. So we are starting to recover, and I think that is great news for everyone. Let's dig into that a little bit. We had an attendee submit this question via email. So understanding revenues have taken a big hit. How will marketing be approached? Will you spend more money to make sure that you're top of mind for consumers out there? Or will your marketing efforts maintain the status quo? Will you just continue to market the way that you've always marketed?
I'll take a stab at that. I think,
All right.
so I've always told my team, you got to spend money to make money. And advertising, that falls right in line with marketing and advertising. However, we are trying to rewrite budgets and find break-even points. And right now at 50%, the math doesn't work, and we can't break even. So, and I don't know that we're going to hit 50% of 2019 sales between now and the end of 2020. So we are really tightening down our expenses. So from a marketing standpoint, as much as I'd love to spend some money to get our message out there, we're going to rely on social media. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's taking pictures of food. Everybody's paying attention to what just in the first week I've heard about and seen everybody making their statements about what the employees at this retail store or this restaurant are doing, good, bad, and indifferent. So we're going to rely on social media. Really, in our community, I love GVL Today. They get a great message out there, so we may try to work a little bit more closely with them. And then just from an editorial and a PR standpoint, getting some of that editorial space, if we can, and focused on public relations with the things that we're doing in our restaurant that we hope make a difference to the customer and keep everybody safe, while at the same time still providing the highest quality food and service that we can. So for the time being, I guess the short answer is spending money on marketing is fairly much off the table, and we'll rely on social media, PR and marketing, PR and editorial.
Got it. Fabian?
Yeah, I want to add to this. I mean, Visit Greenville, South Carolina has come up with a good marketing campaign that the hospitality industry has endorsed. It's a $4 million campaign targeting the drive-in market. And I think that's the most important thing we can do short term. And that was one of the suggestions that came out of our task force meetings with the city and the county chamber and so on to endorse that campaign. And finance that campaign, and I think it made the list, and hopefully it will be implemented. It's important to get started soon, because clearly it's an immediate. And as I mentioned earlier, other locations, other destinations go after the same customer. So we need to be really effective in this regard and get started on this. Again, hotels. I mean, it's not as much local business for us. It's really getting people in from outside. So our marketing ideas are a little bit differently than local travelers. But as long as, let's say, international travel and group business is not quite comfortable coming here, it will take time. So it's really the drive market that we go after, and that can help us. And we need to support that BGSC marketing campaign, which I think has a lot of great aspects to it, which will help us.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Fabian. I don't know how many people realize this, but a large portion of business for both of you relies heavily on the business traveler. And if I understand correctly, the business from the business traveler segment has all but dried up for both of you all, which makes things a bit challenging in terms of your recovery. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Probably more so for Fabian than for us, but Monday through Thursday for the restaurants downtown, I know I can speak for Monday through Thursday, I'd say 60 to 75% of our guests in the restaurant come from the hotels and business travelers that are in town.
And as nice as these
And I
Zoom
think there's
meetings are, they're really cut into the. Oh, sorry,
yeah,
can you hear me?
it's creating a totally, yeah, Fabian, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? Well,
Yes.
as soon, as nice as these Zoom meetings are, down the road, clearly people need to convene and have certain meetings in person again. And it will take time, right? I mean, in the short term, it's really international business travel is kind of non-existent. National will hopefully start resuming a little bit, and we start with that. But international business will take a while, and we just have to find other businesses. And I think, as I said, the local market, the drive-in market is our best chance for the next several months until things open up again nationally, and then hopefully again and internationally eventually again.
All right, good. Let's change direction for just a moment. Pretend that each of you have a crystal ball. You're holding a crystal ball. And let's make some predictions here. Are there any predictions you can make on how your industry will look different moving forward? I mean, there's a recognition that every business will perform business differently in some ways as a result of this pandemic. What does that look like not only for your individual restaurants, but what could that also look like for your respective industries?
So from the restaurant standpoint, no 2 days are ever alike for us, and no game plan that I go into at 4:00 on a Wednesday night is ever followed through. We always have curveballs. We always have instances that come up. So our industry, I think, is very well at adapting. Take 15 years ago or so when grocery stores started making home meal replacements and had meals to go. That cut into the consumers going out to restaurants for a period of time. But restaurants adapted, and some of them started doing meals to go and home meal replacement. And then Uber and Lyft and Uber Eats and others came along and started delivering food, and restaurants have adapted to that. So for us, we have to adapt, and we got into the curbside pickup and the carryout at the beginning of this shutdown, and now we're continuing that as we know that not everybody's ready to go into a restaurant. So we'll continue to do some of those things. We did a great event last night that now we're going to continue to look into and see if that's a new way that we need to do things. We did an event in conjunction with Mill Village Farms and United Way, where people ordered boxes of food. The boxes were delivered to their home, and then we cooked in a studio set up at Sobeys, where Chef Rodney and myself cooked alongside as guests were at home preparing the same meal. And then they sat down at their table and enjoyed the meal. So never would have come up with that idea or thought to do anything like that 3 months ago, let alone any time before that. But now that's something that we're going to keep looking into and probably consider doing. So I think you'll see a lot of different interactive type things being done by the restaurant industry as we go forward.
Thanks for sharing that. Fabian?
For the hotel industry, it's early to say. I would say in the short term, I would say guests, travelers can feel safer and probably will see the cleanest hotel rooms ever, because I mean, that's a lot of focus and time that we all spend on. We probably go away from entering the guest room. So when the guest stays here during his time, nobody else will enter the room unless it's an emergency, right? There will probably be no valet service in the beginning. You drive your car, we take your luggage, you self-park your car, and we bring your luggage up to the room. So all the procedures will change to make the interactions between the hotels and the customer safer and cleaner. And I think that's a good outcome down the road for everybody. What happens in the long term, it's really hard to say, right? I mean, everybody hopes clearly for the development of a vaccine, which would really be, opening things up again. And that will take, I don't know, a year or how long until even though everybody's working on that, until that's developed and implemented and rolled out will take a long time. And until then, I think we just, similar to the restaurant industry, will adjust, have meetings in a different manner, have it more spread out, and adjust to the situation. And I think every day will show, but the fact that we are opening already, which was something we would not have done, let's say 4 weeks ago, shows that we're already heading a little bit more in the right direction, that we feel there is some more interest in people coming and staying in hotels and visiting again. So it's one step at a time. I'm hopeful it will be fine down the road, but it will not be a quick recovery, and it will not be an immediate going back to normal. But it's an adjusting, and we're finding this out every day a little bit more, but we'll be fine in the long run.
I agree, Fabian. Now, speaking of reopening, I want to thank both of you for your active involvement on Greenville's Business Recovery Task Force. Over 20 or so business and community leaders convening to discuss how Greenville can reopen its economy in a safe and healthy way, and also that leads to a robust recovery. Would you all mind sharing a couple of moments discussing your involvement with the Business Recovery Task Force and what you think the key takeaways have been from that?
Sure. Fabian and I both served on the small group committee with hospitality and tourism and getting that back. And one of the best things I think that came out of it was the Greater Greenville Pledge. And so that is a pledge that came up with certain criteria, and each business that reopens pledges to take those safe steps to make their business environment safe for both the employees and the public. And as we talked about earlier, the public needs to play their part in this as well. So we focused on that. And then, as Fabian mentioned, the Visit Greenville tourism campaign to get people out here. We also had a lot of conversation with Megan Regal and Beth Paul from both the Peace Center and the Bon Secours Wellness Arena about when those types of events could get back. And so, those industries are devastated. There's many performers and entertainers, aren't even committing to anything the rest of 2020. The Broadway shows that travel from city to city. I can't remember the date they're on hold through, but at least through Labor Day, I believe, but most likely even longer. So that's devastating to those businesses and those industries. But as far as being on the task force, just being able to vet some of those ideas and have a voice and talk about what we needed to do, it was great to be a part of that. Fabian?
Well, I agree with that. The nice thing was really to invite the whole community on the various task force groups and getting feedback from everybody. You always think about your industry and your sector as being the one and only being impacted until you hear from everybody else how devastating it is for everybody. And then you realize that everything ties in together, right? So if you don't have people from out of town, you're missing around 6,000 people a day now, which we normally have at this time a year in Greenville. If you're missing those people, the retail is impacted. Bike rental, stores, hotels, restaurants, bars, Peace Center, everything. So to rebuild, and you see how everything interconnects. So to rebuild the confidence of people to come back to Greenville step by step and reopening things up again, and making sure that people have something to go to, like the restaurants, it's great. Perhaps events down the road again that people want to come to, the Saturday market and other things. If there are things that people want to come to in a safe manner and they come, then slowly and surely we build back up. And I think that was part of this task force. What I took out from is, everybody plays their part in this whole success story for Greater Greenville. And if we do this right, if everybody does his part, and I think Carl and I and all of us, we are committed to do ours, as we said as well in the Greater Greenville Pledge. It's really important that everybody else, the community, and these people who come visit us, doing their part in order for us all to be successful.
Good. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And speaking of the Greater Greenville Pledge, folks on this call, you can learn more about the Greater Greenville Pledge at greatergreenvillepledge.com. And as a reminder, there are 5 key elements of that Greater Greenville Pledge. Greater Greenville Pledge asks businesses to monitor the health of their employees and their staff, to engage in frequent cleaning of high-touch areas within their respective locations. It encourages the staff to wear face coverings, which is very important. It encourages locations to limit their capacity. I know we've talked about Carl and Fabian and at their businesses, they are limiting the capacity there in their locations. And then also something that's very important that I noticed this weekend that we could do a better job of is it promotes social distancing as well, the 6 feet rule as well. So to learn more about the Greater Greenville Pledge, please visit www.greatergreenvillepledge.com. And then of course, accept that pledge, take the pledge, post that on your windows. And I think we've got some posters and decals and social media items coming along to help out with that as well. Now, Carl and Fabian, we're nearing the end of our show. We don't like to leave without communicating a message of hope to the attendees and throughout the entire community as well. These have been some pretty dark times in Greenville and throughout the country. I think that things are getting better, and they will get a lot better. What are your thoughts in terms of what the future is going to look like? Just in terms of a message of hope for folks on the call.
Well, I've been messaging with our staff over the last two months and some with our customer base. And my message just continues to be that this too shall pass. And I know that's cliche, but I've found it very helpful to myself to focus on what I'm grateful for, and how grateful I am that I live in this community, and that we should all be very thankful to live in Greenville, to have the support and the wonderful resources that we have. And yes, it is difficult right now, but people around the globe have it much worse than we do. The time that we've had, I'll call it pause and reset, has been amazing from a community giving, from a compassion and a kindness standpoint. So we've got to believe and we've got to know that we will get through this. It is difficult. It is taking away from what we considered our normal, but I firmly believe that we're going to come out on the other side a better people, a better community, and better off when it's all said and done. So just stay positive. Remember what you're grateful for, count those blessings, and don't forget to be kind and compassionate to those around you.
All right, thank you, Carl. Fabian?
Well, that was a very nice speech. I'm not sure if I can top that. I might add to it, though, that during hard times or crisis times, I think good things come out of that too, right? People become more creative, and suddenly they out new things that they never thought about before. Status quo was kind of given for a long time, and we got a little bit relaxed in our ways of doing certain things. So I think it's a great opportunity as well to look at the world a little differently and learn and say, well, that's a wake-up call for all of us. What can we do differently and better? And hopefully come out of this in a more positive way, not only for Greenville, but for the world in general. And I'm optimistic that we will achieve that. And we'll take a little bit of time. We have to, be patient and work on it. But there's no question that we will get out of this in a positive way eventually.
Good. Thank you, Fabian. And I want to thank you and Carl, not only for joining us for today's Community Matters event, but also for the leadership that you're delivering for our community. If every business in our community was led like yours, it would be guaranteed that our recovery would be healthy and robust. So I want to thank you for all that you're doing to help us recover here in Greenville. And also I want to thank our attendees for joining us today as well. We certainly appreciate your interest and your support. This recording will be shared on the Greenville Chamber's website and sent to attendees along with a survey. So please take a moment to complete that survey. It really helps to inform how we proceed with this program. And don't forget that this is part of an ongoing series. We hope you will join us next week for an update on the PPP program. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today. You all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for your leadership at the Chamber.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.